I transmigrated into the vicious supporting female character of an angsty ancient Chinese romance novel. The good news is I'm rich, pretty, and powerful. Everyone dotes on me and spoils me rotten. The bad news is this body's owner is a total love brain. My whole family ends up getting killed by the male lead. Oh great, that's how we're playing this, huh? I transmigrated into the only daughter of the Duke of Shin's manor, and I'm the legitimate daughter too. I've got stunning looks and super high social status. Lord and Lady Shin dote on me. The eldest son of the Shin family spoils me like crazy. The only downside is the original owner is a bit love-obsessed, and a vicious love brain at that. She did all kinds of evil things for the male lead, and ended up dying a brutal death with no remains left. Of course that love brain isn't me, it's the original owner. By transmigrating, I look at my fancy silk clothes and luxurious lifestyle. Who cares about men when I've got all this wealth? I didn't hesitate for a second. I decided right then and there to change my fate and enjoy a lifetime of wealth and glory. Luckily, I transmigrated pretty early into the story. Plot has just barely started. The male and female leads haven't even shown up yet. Everything's still salvageable in the tea house. My personal maid Tingju is looking at me with a huge happy smile. Miss Shin, I heard from Lord Shin. General Z will return to the capital with his troops in 3 days. Doesn't that mean great things are coming for the Duke of Shin's manor? It's as if I'm about to become the happiest person alive. ZY is the eldest legitimate son of the Grand General's manor. We grew up together as childhood sweethearts and got engaged when we were little. We were the most admired couple in the whole capital. Everyone thought that when he returned triumphantly, I'd be getting married in my red wedding gown right after. It's as if marrying him is the best thing that could ever happen to me in my life. It's not just Tingju who thinks this way. The original owner thought so too. But the current me only has one thing to say. You want this good fortune in the original story. Was supposed to be overjoyed waiting for ZY to return to the capital. But the person who came back wasn't just ZY, but also the wrong for bearing Little White Flower female lead. The Little White Flower and ZY were tangled up in all sorts of drama. I got consumed by jealousy and kept insulting and framing the Little White Flower. She was wrong and miserable, but she never said a word about it. ZY had mixed feelings of love and hate for her, but he still loved her while torturing her for my sake, until the Little White Flower was almost tortured to death by the two of us. ZY finally realized what his true feelings were, and started taking crazy revenge on me. In this whole messy relationship, my whole role is to turn evil for love. I have a brain, but it stops working when it comes to love, and end up dying a horrible death. The female lead's whole role is to endure everything for love, has a mouth but never uses it to explain herself, and finally gets her happy ending after all the suffering. And the male lead, the culprit of this absurd love drama, after torturing the female lead over and over countless times, he not only got easily forgiven by the female lead, but also ended up in a very high official position, with his family by his side, and the only price he has to pay is me and the entire Duke of Shin's manor, all 300 lives of the people who live there. All I can say is, sometimes transmigrating alone really sucks, you know. When the author wrote this stupid novel, they didn't care at all whether I lived or died. But I care. The very first day I transmigrated here, I was already planning to get rid of this shitty ending, but I don't plan to follow the usual route of transmigration novels, like wooing the male lead, because I know very well pinning my entire life on a man is nothing but a dead end. I could just live a peaceful, rich, and happy life, duh. So I have to win this impossible game. 3 days later, ZY returned to the capital, along with the Little White Flower female lead, Lin Wanyu. Everyone in the capital knew General Z kept away from women, except for me, his fiancée. No other woman was allowed to get close to him, in front of everyone's eyes. From ZY's personal carriage, a woman in white actually walked out, and she was wearing the cloak that the original owner sewed with her own hands for ZY. One was tall and handsome, the other was delicate and stunningly beautiful. They looked like a perfect couple standing together. All of a sudden, countless weird looks landed on me. Some were probing, some were curious, but most of them were mocking. Was no longer ZY's exception. I should have been shocked, jealous, sad, and angry. Then walked up to ZY and questioned him loudly. Who is this woman? Embarrassing ZY in public and making Lin Wan Yu panic and cry. But all these reactions should be based on me having feelings for him. I'm not the original owner. I don't love the male lead, so I'm way more rational than he is. The reason ZY and I got engaged is mostly because our families are of equal status, perfectly matched in social standing. He's the legitimate son of a prominent general's family. I'm a noble lady from a prestigious family too. His reputation matters. Mine is just as important. So I put on my most proper demeanor and smiled bright and pretty amid all those scorching stares from the crowd. I walked up to ZY. A Y, long time no see. Congratulations on your triumphant return. I heard from Uncle Z that you fought an amazing battle this time. At the welcome banquet later, you have to tell me all about it, okay? I behaved generously and appropriately, not even a hint of blame towards him. I even let out a little bit of intimacy on purpose, seeing me act like this. ZY looked awkward for a split second. Then he moved away from Lin Wan Yu and stepped a little closer to me. He then forced a gentle smile as if to cover it up. Tao Jiao, long time no see. You've changed a little, huh? ZY and I hadn't seen each other for a whole year. In his memory, I should be the spoiled and willful type, especially when dealing with those women who tried to get close to him. I could even be a little unreasonable, but the me standing in front of him right now was someone he had never seen before, so he couldn't help but feel a little surprised. I glanced at Lin Wan Yu out of the corner of my eye, then lifted my eyes to meet his gaze, and winked at him playfully. AY, you've changed a lot too. You even know how to be a gentleman to pretty girls now. ZY was stunned for a moment. He also glanced at the flustered Lin Wan Yu, frowned and said, Tao Jiao, this is Lin Wan Yu. When I got injured at the border, her mom saved me, so that's what happened. I cut him off mid-sentence and continued speaking loud enough for everyone present to hear. Since Miss Lin did you such a big favor, can you treat her so shabbily? Saying that, I waved behind my back and called Tingju over. It's been a long and tiring journey. I'm sure Miss Lin is exhausted too. Tingju, hurry up and take Miss Lin to rest for a bit. Seeing Tingju walking towards her, Lin Wan Yu panicked clearly on her face. She looked at ZY as if asking for help. ZY frowned and stared at her, looking a little hesitant. Tao Jiao, actually I smiled brightly. Today's welcome banquet was personally granted by the Emperor. AY, it's fine if you don't care about formalities yourself, but we have to let Miss Lin freshen up properly, right? This welcome banquet has the Emperor's full attention. Half of the Imperial Court will be attending. It's not only held to welcome ZY back, but also to show off the Z family's achievements. So even if ZY had doubts in his heart, he had to consider the bigger picture. What can get a man wrapped around your finger, other than weak tears, is the useless thing called face. Seeing that ZY didn't say anything more, Lin Wan Yu's pretty face paled a little. She could only lower her eyes and let Tingju take her away. In the original story, I had an aggressive confrontation with him, which made ZY really upset, so he accidentally blurted out in front of everyone that he had already promised Mother Lin that he would let Lin Wan Yu marry into the Z family. I flew into a rage and slapped Lin Wan Yu in public. Not only did I get labeled as a jealous shrew, but it also made ZY hold a grudge against me. That was how my villain arc started. But now I can easily turn the situation around, simply because I don't love ZY anymore. See, irrational love doesn't just make you obsessed, it also makes you dumber. In the garden of the Z mansion, ZY stood in front of me looking guilty. Tao Jiao, I'm really sorry about this. Lin Wan Yu's mother saved my life. She entrusted Lin Wan Yu to me right before she died. Could I go against my savior's last wish? But don't worry, You're the only one in my heart. The only person I, ZY, will ever marry is you. I listened to him finish patiently, then glanced at the corner behind him. The moment my gaze swept over that spot, a corner of a white dress quickly hid behind the wall, just like in the original story. When ZY was explaining things to me, the female lead heard every single word. This is such a classic cliché misunderstanding plot in brainless abusive romance novels. And going with the female lead's typical never explain herself trope, she would just secretly feel sad and heartbroken. I really don't want to be the villain NPC in their brainless love story. So I walked around ZY and stepped forward, and pulled Lin Wanyu out from behind the wall in one go. The atmosphere turned awkward immediately. I didn't mean to. I was just passing by. Lin Wanyu's eyes turned red. She shook her head and explained like a frightened little deer. ZY was visibly flustered. He even subconsciously took a step towards Lin Wanyu. I looked at ZY with disappointment. But AY, I know you better than anyone. I know you value kindness and keep your promises. But today is the day you return to the capital. Everyone in the entire capital is watching you. Even His Majesty pays special attention to this occasion. This is supposed to be your moment of great glory. Yet you brought her back in such a brazen public way. It would be fine if we didn't have a marriage contract, but you just had to do this. How do you expect the people and officials in the city to see you? And what will they think of me? If you want to repay a debt of gratitude, there are plenty of ways and opportunities to do so. Is it really so urgent that you can't wait even a little while? Maybe the disappointment in my eyes was too obvious. ZY's face gradually turned pale. I shook my head and let out a soft sigh. Besides, when we got engaged, Uncle Z once promised my father, saying that the Z family has an ancestral rule. A man from the Z family can only marry one woman in his lifetime, and you would never let me down. As I said this, I shifted my gaze to Lin Wanyu. Yet you knew all this perfectly well, and you still brought her back. Can you honestly say that you have never had any romantic feelings for her even a tiny bit? My words hit them hard right where it hurts. Both of them widened their eyes slightly, their pupils trembling with shock. Of course he had feelings for her. ZY was ambushed by enemy troops at the border, and it was Mother Lin who saved him. Lin Wanyu took care of him attentively day and night. They had already developed feelings for each other long ago, but ZY still had me in his heart. Yet he couldn't help falling for Lin Wanyu. He was extremely torn about this. But the worst part of it all was, when Mother Lin was dying from her injuries, she coerced him by leveraging the life-saving grace she had given him, pushing this already inappropriate relationship completely into an irredeemable mess. That favor became ZY's excuse to give in to his feelings. He let himself care for two people at the same time, while turning his own selfishness and inner suffering into resentment, and took all of it out on Lin Wanyu. Zhao Jiao, listen to me. ZY tried to say something to explain, but I turned around right away. Before I left, I made sure to say one more thing. We shouldn't be discussing this today, but our marriage needs to be reconsidered by both of us. We can talk about it another day. With that, I left without looking back. On the carriage back to the manor that evening, my maid Tingju was massaging my shoulders, seething with anger. Miss Shin, they treated you like this. How could you just let them off so easily? Whoever said I was going to let them off? At the end of the day, I did this for our Shin Duke's manor. ZY and Lin Wanyu are the ones who made the mistake, so of course we have to hold them accountable for it. Why would I bring unnecessary trouble onto myself? Besides, if I made a big scene like in the original story, and ruined the welcome banquet on the spot, I'd be offending way more than just the general's manner, since I'm not the one in the wrong here. All I need to do is keep my dignity intact, and completely distance myself from this whole mess. It's just that without me stepping up to take the heat, the ZY and his little innocent flower can handle the consequences of their reckless actions. After all, today, I tried my best to save both mine and ZY's face. But quite a few people still picked up that something was off. and news spreads faster than anything else in this capital. Then, Miss Shen, what about your marriage to General Z? She paused to process what I had just said. Tingju's voice trailed off quietly. I waved my hand and said it's nothing to worry about. The word fate requires not only a starting cause, but also a predestined bond. Without that bond, everything is just in vain. I originally wanted to break off the engagement with ZY anyway. I don't want to be a part of the little romance game between him and the female lead. It's just that our marriage is related to the interests of two large aristocratic families. It's just not that easy to call it off. Now that the female lead has shown up, of course I'm going to make good use of this opportunity. ZY, on the other hand, if I don't cling to him desperately like in the original plot, and throw myself at him no matter what, and be the sacrifice for his love with Lin Wanyu, how is he supposed to end up with the woman he loves? Just as I expected, the second day after the welcome banquet ended, the news about ZY and Lin Wanyu spread all over every street and alley in the capital. The Z family's family values have always been praised by the public, so this time they really lost a huge amount of face. What's more, some people even submitted impeachment petitions to His Majesty overnight, accusing ZY of improper conduct. But what made them even more anxious was our marriage. Uncle Z brought ZY to our manor in person to apologize to me and my parents. My father and Uncle Z have been friends for generations, so he couldn't just snub him outright. But my father cares about me more than anything. He accepted Uncle Z's apology, but still put our marriage on hold for the time being. ZY saw that I looked gentle and said a lot of apologetic words in a soft voice. I just responded to him coldly and indifferently. ZY was intent on coaxing me, so he put his matters with Lin Wanyu on hold for the time being. He even arranged for Lin Wanyu to stay temporarily outside the Grand General's mansion, and focused all his attention on me. He sent people to deliver gifts to my manor every single day. He visited my place for days straight to invite me out for fun. I turned him down every time. He just assumed I was still angry with him. He said helplessly he would wait until I cooled off. But I knew better. As long as Lin Wanyu was around, ZY's heart would only drift further away from me, and the mess between me and them wasn't going to end that easily. Just like right now, it had only been 7 days since the welcome banquet inside the Yijin Pavilion. I ran into Lin Wanyu again. I was picking jewelry in the private booth upstairs when I heard a loud ruckus downstairs, so I stepped out to take a look. A crowd of people had gathered downstairs at some point. Several young women were standing right in the middle of the crowd. Lin Wanyu was one of them. My heart sank immediately. I had seen the other girls standing with Lin Wanyu before. They were all legitimate daughters of minor official families in the capital, and the one leading them was Su Ryan, one of the cannon fodder villains in the original story. There was no way this group showed up here together with good intentions. I was just thinking that Su Ryan downstairs immediately started her usual trick. You home-wrecking fox, how dare you swagger around here like you belong? Look how unseemly and cheap you are. Yijin Pavilion is a place you don't even deserve to enter. This is so unlucky. Lin Wanyu was getting insulted left and right by them. Tears were welling up in her eyes. She couldn't say a single word in her defense. She really sticks to her mute character setting. It's so frustrating to watch. But the quieter she was, the more arrogant those girls got. Just as Su Ryan raised her hand about to slap Lin Wanyu across the face, I decided to speak up. If she doesn't deserve to be here, then who does? I slowly walked down the stairs, staring at Su Ryan with a cold, blank expression. Does someone as rude as you, who spouts nothing but nasty words, deserve to be here? Miss Shen. All of them were shocked when they saw me. Then they immediately put on obsequious smiles. Miss Shen, this seductress is seducing General Z. We really couldn't stand it anymore, so we wanted to teach her a lesson on your behalf. HMPH. You've got quite the nerve, Miss Su. Now you're even doing things on my behalf. Next thing I know, you'll be taking my place. As the legitimate daughter of the Shen Duke's mansion, Su Ryan had crossed paths with me a few times before. She knew I never liked other women getting close to ZY, but she never expected that this little stunt of hers didn't win me over at all. It actually pissed me off. She panicked immediately. "That's not what I meant, Miss Shen. It was wrong. I won't dare do it again. If I catch you again next time, bullying others with your status like this, I'll make sure your entire family gets an impeachment memo from the censored." My words scared them so bad they apologized repeatedly. They didn't even take the jewelry they had picked out and ran off as fast as they could. I turned around. Lin Wanyu was standing behind me staring at me blankly. She even forgot to shed the tears rolling in her eyes. Thank you, Miss Shen." She came to her senses after a moment, stammering out her thanks. "No need to thank me." I shook my head and got ready to leave. "Miss Shen, why did you help me?" "No particular reason. They just ruined my peaceful mood, that's all." "Miss Shen, aren't you mad at me?" "Mad at you? For what?" "Because of ZY. What good would being mad at you do? Besides, when it comes to romance, it always requires mutual affection. Some mistakes aren't your fault alone. The most confusing thing about tragic novels supporting female villains is that they blame the female lead entirely for losing the male lead's love. Sure, the female lead isn't completely innocent here, but the one who pretends to be a devoted lover while falling for someone else behind your back and pushes the female villain to turn dark for love is obviously the male lead. Hatred should always be directed at the root of the problem. Turning into a bitter woman over a guy like that is just way too much to ask of me. She probably never expected me to say something like that. Lin Wanyu was totally shocked. She froze for a long time before speaking slowly. "You're nothing like I imagined, huh?" I curled my lips into a smile. "I hope I didn't disappoint you, Miss Lin." Peaceful days lasted for a few more days before they were interrupted. Someone from ZY's Manor sent me an invitation, inviting me to meet him at Heating. He also said if I didn't show up, he just won't leave. He's determined to wait until I show up. Honestly, I don't care how long he waits. If he really has the patience to hold out, he can turn to bones waiting for all I care. But some things need to be settled once and for all. When he tried to hold my hand, I dodged it subtly without making a scene. A hint of awkwardness flashed across ZY's usually gentle face. "Tao Jiao, I'm sorry. I promise you, you're the only person I love the most." I stared at him steadily. I didn't give him any response. Guys really seem to have endless love to pass around. He wants to pluck the bright moon from the sky and keep the cinnabar mole on his heart too. But if he actually gets both the moon and the mole become worthless common threads. Only the things you can never have will haunt you for your whole life. Tao Jiao, stop being mad at me, okay? Why? I've thought this through. Let's call off our engagement." ZY froze for a second. Disbelief flooded his eyes. "What did you say?" "I said I've made my decision. We are canceling the engagement. I'll step aside so you can be with Lin Wanyu. Tomorrow I will have Master Shen send someone to deliver the Adelman letter to the General's mansion." ZY's brows furrowed immediately. This was a situation he never expected at all. "I will never agree to this." After a moment of silence, his face finally darkened. "If you don't want to see Lin Wanyu, I can settle her outside the mansion later. You will be the only woman in the General's mansion, and I'll treat you twice as good as before. Either way, I will never agree to breaking off the engagement. Even with things as they are right now, he still wants to have his cake and eat it too." I shook my head. There's no way I'm letting him get away with that easily. Should I wrong myself and put up with this, and marry a man who's not loyal to me? I told you already. What I feel for Lin Wanyu is only gratitude. His face was completely serious. His tone sounded very sincere. I lifted my eyes and looked straight into his. ZY is extremely handsome. He's literally breathtakingly good looking. A guy like him could easily sweep any woman off her feet. If I didn't know the whole plot already and knew what he was really thinking, I probably would have fallen for his sincere act too. My gaze was sharp with obvious doubt. But do you even believe that yourself? I've seen what you look like when you're truly in love. I know how you love better than you do. He wants to keep pretending everything is fine. Well, I'm gonna rip that mask right off his face. A bright, glorious sun should never sink into the mud for anyone. He's the one who got too greedy. And should I feel sorry for myself? I'm definitely not doing that. In fact, I'll look down on him from the moral high ground. See why you're the one who broke our promise first. He looked clearly panicked, like his secret had just been exposed. His face went as stiff as a board. After a long moment, Ziwi gave me a long, deep look. Do we really have to make things this ugly between us? I didn't answer. I just looked away. I didn't look at him again. He stumbled away after a long while. The second he turned around, suddenly in the dark sky, a gorgeous firework exploded. The whole night sky lit up with a full fireworks show. The sky full of sparks cast a long shadow of Ziwai's back, making him look extra pathetic. These fireworks were originally supposed to be for him to confess his feelings to me. Master Shin asked me if I was really sure about breaking off the engagement with Ziwai, and that I wasn't just acting on impulse. I used to be so head over heels for him. I nodded. MMHMM, I'm sure. After a moment of silence, he let out a long sigh. Fine, call it off then. As long as my Jiao Jiao doesn't regret it later, that's all that matters. I never even wanted to marry you off in the first place, but you've had a crush on that Z-boy since you were little. Plus the Z family has that ancestral rule of one lifetime, one partner, so I thought he was a reliable match for you. But now it looks like that Z-boy isn't trustworthy at all. HMPH, I tugged on Master Shin's sleeve playfully. Good thing ZY and I haven't started planning the wedding yet. It's not too late to call off the engagement now. One lifetime, one partner. What a beautiful promise. Too bad this rule was only made to serve the cheesy love story of the male and female leads. There's no way a side character like me would get that lucky. But when I thought about that figure in white that had been hiding in the dark all night, I looked down and lowered my eyes. The story that revolves around the male and female leads is that no matter where they go, they can never avoid accidental run-ins with each other. And when I heard Ziwei once again deny his feelings for her, I can't help but wonder what Lin Wanyu really thinks. Is a guy like this really worth it for her? Sigh, whatever. You are the legitimate daughter of Duke Shin's mansion. You can have any man you want to marry. Why bother suffering for a guy like ZY? Lord Shin gently patted the top of my head, pulling me out of my thoughts. Looking at his concerned and loving face, I smiled, stood up and gave him a shoulder rub. Lord Shin, I want to discuss something with you. Lord Shin squinted in comfort. You're being extra nice for no reason. Spit it out, what's up? I said in a low voice. It's about the princes. His eyes widened immediately, looking extremely shocked. Then he quickly lowered his voice. Did someone say something to you? I shook my head. I noticed it myself, father. According to the original story, Emperor Chu is in poor health right now. There's an undercurrent of tension in the imperial court. Right now, several princes are trying to win over Duke Shin's mansion. Among them, Lord Shin's favorite is second Prince Chu Jingyao. Although the second prince's birth mother was only a palace maid, with no power or influence at all. The second prince is very shrewd and calculating, and has done very well in his political achievements. A lot of people have high hopes for him, but when it comes to the fight for the throne, if you win, your whole family rises to power. If you lose, your entire clan gets exterminated. Can't afford to make a single wrong move. Zhao Jiao, you know how court affairs are. Unpredictable and treacherous. Extremely dangerous. Can't take even one wrong step. This is not something a woman can easily meddle in. I know, but since you're still undecided, Lord Shin, why not let your daughter help you share the load? Lord Shin looked at me, thought for a moment, and finally nodded. You're much more sensible than you used to be, but once you take this step, there's no going back later. Have you thought this through? I said with a smile. I have. I should do my part for the future of Duke Shin's mansion. Actually, for all these years, the original owner was trained by Duke Shin's mansion, not just in poetry, books, and etiquette, but also in current affairs and political opinions. Oh, she is the legitimate daughter of Duke Shin's mansion, and her fiancé was also an important court official. But her status and position, she couldn't afford to be a naive little flower who knew nothing of the world. With all those years of upbringing and influence, her opinions were actually quite unique and insightful. But in the original story, she was given a forced stupidity buff. All she could think about was fighting for the male lead's favor, going against the female lead Chi-Ching. That's why she lived so aimlessly and slowly walked towards a miserable end. Now, between chasing the male lead and dealing with Chi-Ching, I've chosen to focus on building my career. Chasing men will get my whole family killed, but building my career will give me a bright future. With Lord Shin's approval, I immediately started to look into the court situation and a network of connections. When Madame Shin found out about this, she was very worried for a while. She kept thinking I was upset over relationship problems and was traumatized, so I wanted to find something to do to take my mind off the sadness. She carefully tested me a few times, but when she saw I was emotionally stable, ate well and slept well, she stopped worrying. She just told me not to overwork myself. Court affairs are secret and complicated. You can't figure them out in a short time. I nodded and agreed, but the time I spent working only increased, not decreased. Because I know very well, the Emperor's health won't last much longer. Don't have much time left. In the original story, when the princess kept trying to win him over, Lord Shin chose the second prince. No one expected the second prince to be so ungrateful, afraid that Duke Shin's mansion was too powerful. Only 3 years after he ascended the throne, he kept cutting down the power of Duke Shin's mansion, until finally, Lord Shin lost all his power in the court. The original owner wanted to use her relationship with ZY to beg ZY to help Duke Shin's mansion, but what she got was an imperial edict accusing Duke Shin's mansion of treason, ordering the execution of the entire clan, and the person who read the edict was none other than ZY, whom she saw as her last hope. So what I need to do now is to persuade Lord Shin to choose another wise ruler. Looking at the carefully sorted court relationship map I made, he was quite interested. Right now, half of the court officials are on the second prince's side. If we support the second prince, that would be pretty safe actually. I shook my head and tapped the desk lightly. The second prince has a lot of followers, but most of them hold low ranks, so they carry little weight in the court. It's true if he gets Lord Shin's support, the second prince's odds of winning will be way higher. But you know what they say, tall trees catch more wind. Too much power is honey to the powerless, but poison to those already in power. Not to mention the second prince has the cunning of an emperor, but no powerful clans backing him up. If we help him, we'll become the biggest backing he has. He frowned and thought for a moment. Then what if we voluntarily hand over half our power in exchange for peace? Sure, we could take the gamble. But what if we lose? Betting the lives of everyone in Duke Shin's mansion on the Emperor's whims is definitely not a smart move. If you ask me, half our power won't be enough to satisfy the second prince. He wants everything. He wants to drain Duke Shin's mansion completely dry. Otherwise, if he had even a shred of kindness, Duke Shin's mansion wouldn't have ended up like that. Lord Shin stared at the scroll on the desk, lost in thought for ages. After a while, he looked slowly up at me, a faint smile spreading across his face. Wow, my Zhao Jiao is such a strategic young woman. His voice full of pride. I curled my lips into a smile. Shin Lingjia actually has a lot going for her. As the only daughter of the Shin family, everyone in the family dotes on her. They never force her to do anything she doesn't want to. They even support all her decisions unconditionally. If it weren't for ZY, she'd be the most carefree girl in the whole capital. The path we're on now is the right one. A moment later he stroked his chin. If we don't pick the second prince, do you have someone else in mind, Zhao Jiao? Sighed, the current emperor has 5 sons total, aside from the somewhat competent second prince and fifth Prince Chu who died young. We only have the mediocre, eldest Prince Chu, third Prince Chu, and Chu Jing who's been bedridden for ages. I nodded. Of course I do, and he is more fit than anyone else to sit on that imperial throne. After hearing what I said, Duke Shin's mansion didn't form an alliance with the second prince. We stayed neutral for the time being. Without the support of Duke Shin's mansion, the second prince went for the next best option and set his sights on the Grand General's mansion. Lord Shin even asked for my opinion on this specifically, but this turn of events didn't surprise me at all. All according to the original plot. The Grand General's mansion ends up supporting the second prince too. They're his second biggest backer. It's just that in the original story, Duke Shin's mansion took the brunt of everything. Plus, Ziwei has the male lead halo. The second prince saw Ziwei as his trusted right-hand man, so he treated the Grand General's mansion really well. Now that Duke Shin's mansion isn't there to shield the Z family from trouble, I'm actually curious how far Ziwei's main character halo can actually protect him. Changing the original plot doesn't mean Duke Shin's mansion is completely safe. To completely avoid the original fate of Duke Shin's mansion, I asked Lord Shin for some more people and had them gather intel for me. During this period, a lot of stuff happened. First, Lord Shin kept getting targeted in court. It's not hard to guess who's behind this. The second prince never tolerates anyone going against him. Duke Shin's mansion turned down his alliance offer, so as far as he's concerned, we're his enemies now. Lord Shin and I already expected this, so we handled it pretty easily. The other thing is about ZY and Lin Wanyu. Without me, the villainous side character, getting in the way, the male and female lead's relationship isn't going well at all. A servant from the Grand General's mansion told me, ever since I broke off the engagement with ZY treats Lin Wanyu even worse than before. It seems like he blames my departure entirely on Lin Wanyu, and everyone in the Z family is cold to her now. I ran into Lin Wanyu a couple times on the street. She's gotten so much thinner and frailer. She looks worse every time I see her. Once it was pouring rain. I even saw ZY kick her out of the carriage right on the street, leaving her soaking wet in the rain. Every time Lin Wanyu just holds back her tears, just like every other female lead in an angsty romance, and swallows all the humiliation quietly. It's so frustrating even I, the villainous side character, feel bad for her when I see this. I'm so confused about the original author's logic. This self-sacrificing silent tolerance will never get you respect or love. If you don't even care about your own feelings, how do you expect anyone else to care about you? What's more, pinning all your hopes on a man. What century is this stupid sitting even from? I literally can't even with this. The next time I crossed paths with ZY and Lin Wanyu was a whole month later. It was the Mid-Autumn Festival, and the Imperial Palace hosted the annual Autumn Hunt. Master Shen brought me along to attend the event, but I never expected ZY would actually bring Lin Wanyu. Given their current relationship, after all, an occasion like this, it makes no sense for ZY to bring her along. But then I remembered this entire novel is illogical anyway, so the male and female leads showing up together suddenly makes sense. The villainous side character is here with the leads too, and this is a classic iconic scene for historical romance novels, the Autumn Hunt. Something is definitely gonna go down. I let out a sigh and decided to stay far away from those to trouble magnets. But as I was lost in thought staring at the ground, a figure suddenly popped up right in front of me the next second. Then a deep voice sounded right above my head. Zhao Jiao, I looked up. It was ZY. I've been actively avoiding him this whole time, and he still came looking for me on his own. I pulled myself together and said with a completely blank expression, "What can I do for you, General Z? All this time recently, you've been avoiding me." ZY wore a heartbroken look on his face. "General Z, we have already called off our engagement. It's only proper that we keep our distance." I hadn't seen ZY at all after the engagement was broken off, save for a few random run-ins on the street, which I always managed to dodge. "Fine," ZY sighed helplessly. When he saw no one else was around, he lowered his voice and said, "I came here today to discuss something important with you. The General's mansion has already formed an alliance with the second prince. He has the highest chance of succeeding to the throne." ZY knew perfectly well that Duke Shin's mansion is currently on bitter, hostile terms with the second prince, and that Master Shin is constantly being suppressed in court. But he supposedly still has feelings for me, so he wanted to persuade me to not be blind to the current situation and get back together with him. That way, the Shin and Z families would become in-laws. We could smoothly pledge loyalty to the second prince. He spoke with so much apparent sincerity. I was yawning non-stop the whole time he talked. I looked him dead in the eye. "General Z, what on earth makes you think I would ever want to get back together with you?" ZY looked completely earnest. "One wrong move in this game and you lose everything. Don't want to see you get dragged down into this mess. Come back to me, Jiao Jiao. I will definitely keep you safe and sound no matter what." I laughed. "Keep me safe? Your idea of protection is making me marry you and be a delicate little flower that relies entirely on you and begs for your protection my whole life." ZY frowned. "Jiao Jiao, the fight for the throne is no place to act on impulse and emotion. Duke Shin's mansion has already made an enemy of the second prince. If you want to resolve this conflict, this is the best possible way. Once you make a move on the board, you can't take it back." I spoke in a calm, steady tone. No one can claim to know the final outcome of a game that hasn't even finished yet. Every move Duke Shin's mansion has made, even if it truly was a wrong move, we will take responsibility for the consequences ourselves. There's no need for you to worry about us, General Z. Right after I finished speaking, I walked around ZY to leave, and ran straight into Lin Wanyu, who was coming to look for ZY. I paused for a moment, and spoke again. "Besides, if you truly had me in your heart, General Z, you would trust me, help me, stand side by side with me, instead of caging me under your wings, so I become too weak to survive on my own. That is not affection. That is just your despicable, selfish desire." I didn't wait for ZY to react. With Lin Wanyu staring at me in shock, I walked away calmly at a steady pace. Whether it was the original owner of this body or Lin Wanyu, their greatest tragedy was being treated as accessories to show off the male lead's charm. The male lead hides behind the pretense of love, clips their wings, traps them in the inner courtyard, so they can only rely on him for their entire lives, and survive on his pity and affection, and they are supposed to be endlessly grateful for it. But this is all just to satisfy the male leads. Shallow, despicable possessiveness. It doesn't deserve to be called love at all. The autumn hunt was bustling with noise and excitement. Master Shin also kept urging me to go join in the fun. I'm not the original owner of this body, though. I have no idea how to hunt at all. I only just learned how to ride a horse these past few weeks. But I had to keep up my character persona, so I grabbed my bow and arrows and rode my horse into the woods, planning to just wander around a bit then come back. But before I could even head back, something went wrong. When I reached the valley, I suddenly heard the sound of huge heavy objects rolling down the hillside. I looked up and saw huge boulders rolling towards me one after another. There were at least a dozen of them at the very least. Luckily I reacted pretty fast and quickly rolled off my horse before darting into a cave to hide. But while I was taking cover, I still got hit by some flying rock fragments and suffered a few minor injuries. The worst news is, the cave entrance got blocked. There was only an upward opening, just big enough for one person to pass through. Too bad the rock wall was totally smooth, and I had sprained my ankle, so I couldn't get out for the time being. I could only wait first to see if anyone would notice I was missing and come to rescue me. But what I never expected was, the first person to find me would be Lin Wanyu. Watching the sky outside get darker and darker, and still no one came for me. I let out a long sigh and was just planning to grit my teeth and climb out when I heard someone calling me excitedly through the boulders. "Miss Shin, is that you inside?" I froze for a second. I'd barely spoken a few words to Lin Wanyu before, but that pleasant, spring-like voice was definitely hers. "Lin Wanyu, it's me." She was overjoyed. "I finally found you. Miss Shin, are you all right?" I smiled bitterly and said I was fine, but I sprained my ankle, so I can't climb up. Could I trouble you, Miss Lin, to go find Master Shin for me and ask him to get me out? Lin Wanyu looked a little nervous. "Is your sprained ankle serious?" Just about to say it wasn't bad, when my vision went black. Something had blocked the light coming into the cave. I instinctively looked up at the opening above and met a pair of almond eyes full of worry. I watched Lin Wanyu jump down easily from the opening. I was so shocked I forgot to speak for a moment. That opening wasn't actually that high. It was just that my ankle was terribly swollen. I was afraid moving carelessly would worsen the injury. Plus I knew Master Shin is a total doting dad who would notice I was gone really soon. That's why I didn't try to climb out earlier. But at the end of the day, seeing such bold behavior from Lin Wanyu felt really weird to me. Noticing I was staring at her in shock, Lin Wanyu looked a little flustered. "My mother is a doctor. I followed her up the mountain to collect herbs since I was little, so I'm fairly agile." I was silent for a moment. It's true, Lin Wanyu's mother is indeed a doctor, and a very skilled one at that. That's why she was able to pull Ziwai, who was left with barely her breath after being injured by enemy troops, back from death. I practiced medicine with Mother Lin for years, so I picked up a lot of skills. "If you don't mind, Miss Shin, could I take a look at your injury?" Lin Wanyu asked carefully. I just rolled up my bent leg and held my injured leg right in front of her. The female lead of this novel isn't totally useless. Has extremely high talent and skill in medicine. When she was taking care of Ziwai in the military camp, she saved a great many soldiers. If this was modern times, she would definitely have a whole room full of thank you banners. So I didn't doubt her medical skills at all. Too bad according to the plot, after she gets together with Ziwai, she only uses her medical skills for Ziwai. After Lin Wanyu checked my injury, she frowned. "Good thing you didn't walk around randomly. Otherwise you'd have to rest properly for 2 or 3 months before you could fully recover. How did you end up here?" Lin Wanyu was feeling my ankle to diagnose the injury. I tilted my head and observed her. She responded to me without stopping her movements. "I heard Duke Shin arranging people to search for someone in the camp. I asked around and found out you were missing, so you came to look for me on purpose." I stared at her closely, with a hint of curiosity in my eyes. Lin Wanyu nodded. I was extremely confused. I knew for a fact we weren't close. Not just not close, we could even be considered love rivals. I really couldn't figure it out. As she would help Master Shin look for me and care about me this much. It was like Lin Wanyu could read my mind. She said, "You helped me before," so I couldn't just ignore this. As she spoke, she pulled a blue knotted tassel from her pocket and held it out to me. There was a fingernail-sized wooden plaque hanging on the tassel, with the character Shin branded on it. Looking at the tassel, I suddenly remembered something. It was pouring heavily that day, when Ziwai abandoned Lin Wanyu by the roadside. I had told Tingju to send her an umbrella. This tassel is the marker from the Duke of Shin's mansion that we tie to umbrella handles. I wave my hand. It's just an umbrella. It's more than just an umbrella. Lin Wanyu shakes her head, her sparkling eyes fixed firmly on me. and you bailed me out at Yushin Pavilion that day too. Miss Shin, you're such a kind person. I snort a laugh at that. The soft, innocent female lead calling the evil supporting female a good person. That's got to be pretty wild even for the entire novel circle. Miss Shin, Lin Wan Yu calls me again, her expression serious. The girl in front of me stays silent for a moment, like she's psyching herself up. After a long while, she speaks slowly. I have feelings for General Z. I raise an eyebrow. So when we were at the border, our village was ransacked by enemy troops. It was ZY who saved me from the enemy when I was about to be assaulted. I've liked him ever since, so when I heard he was attacked, I went to save him. But at first I didn't know he already liked someone else. I also didn't expect my mother would use that debt of gratitude to ask him to take care of me. I didn't even want to come back with him, but he said he promised my mother he'd look after me. I know I'm being selfish. Even though I know he has feelings for you, I still hope he'll give me a little more attention, even just a single glance. But the first time I met you, I knew I was wrong. She bites her lip, stubborn and holding back her emotions. Miss Shin, you're bright and dazzling, an absolutely amazing girl. You deserve to be cherished like a treasure. I know I shouldn't keep clinging to ZY, but I have my own difficulties too. Just give me some time. I'll definitely leave ZY for good. You're leaving him? Why are you telling me this? I blink in confusion. I don't take other people's trash, you know. Lin Wan Yu freezes for a second, then gives a bitter laugh. Fair enough. You deserve the very best, Miss Shin. But that she lowers her head again and carefully tends to the injury on my ankle. I stare at her for a long moment. Miss Lin, I have a line to give back to you. Huh? Her big eyes are filled with confusion. You're not what I expected, right? She smiles suddenly, the confusion in her eyes turning into little specks of starlight, shining in her crescent moon-shaped eyes. I hope I didn't disappoint you, Miss Shin. Moonlight spills all around. The slim girl in white smiles with her eyes crinkled. Her hair, messy from hurrying to find me, sticks to her fair, pale cheeks. She looks so pitiful it tugs at your heartstrings. I take a quiet breath, suddenly understanding ZY a little. I purse my lips. I say seriously, Lin Wan Yu, let's make a deal. In the end, it was Lin Wan Yu who led. Master Shin here to rescue me. The imperial physician who treated my injury said, my Wan was treated very well. There's no serious damage. Just need to rest for a few days to recover. After seeing the physician off, Master Shin looks at me with a grave expression. This wasn't an accident. I nod. I noticed the autumn hunt is held in the royal hunting grounds. Logically, aside from some violent prey, there shouldn't be any other dangers. Plus the weather has been good these past few days. Even if it rains occasionally, it's only light rain. It's almost impossible for the soil to loosen, enough to cause boulders to roll down. So the most likely scenario is that someone did this on purpose. The second prince, Master Shin's face is thunderous. He didn't even try to hide it. He sent someone to warn me early this morning. He didn't say it outright, but it's definitely his doing. He's trying to use your life to blackmail me into not opposing him. I rub my temples. I always knew the second prince wasn't a generous man, but I didn't expect him to be this petty. Alright, that day I rejected ZY's attempt to mediate. That must have been when we completely fell out. I curl the corner of my mouth up. Courtesy demands reciprocity after all. Since the second prince prepared such a big gift for us, we have to give him a gift in return. I'd like to see whether his careful schemes are better, or my advanced knowledge of the plot wins out. In just half a month, the palace secret suddenly started spreading among the common people. The rumor says the fifth prince of Chu, who died young, was actually the first loser in this fight for the throne. The fifth prince's cause of death wasn't a birth defect as the palace claimed. He was poisoned while still in his mother's womb. As soon as the rumor broke, the second prince's matter got the most attention from the public. No reason other than that among the Emperor of Chu's 5 sons, first and third princes are extremely mediocre. They got their own fiefs long before the fifth prince of Chu was born. They've kept their noses clean for years. But Chu Jing has been bedridden since he was 7 years old. Imperial physicians even claimed he wouldn't live past 20. So back when the fifth prince of Chu's mother was pregnant, the Emperor of Chu paid extra special attention to this child. But fate didn't go as planned. The fifth prince of Chu died only 3 days after he was born. No new royal babies were born in the imperial harem ever since. Infant mortality is quite common after all. Besides, the fifth prince of Chu was in poor condition when he was born. So everyone thought back then the fifth prince of Chu was born with congenital weakness. But now the rumors in the capital are super detailed and convincing. They're spreading for so long, people can't help but suspect something is wrong. If the fifth prince of Chu was really poisoned, the biggest beneficiary must be the second prince, who was healthy and exceptionally talented. As the rumors got worse and worse, all officials submitted petitions to the Emperor of Chu, asking to reinvestigate the cause of the fifth prince of Chu's death. The second prince swore to the Emperor of Chu multiple times to prove his innocence. The Emperor of Chu still issued an imperial edict. The minister of the Court of Judicial Review will personally oversee the investigation. Everyone in the palace suddenly feared for their own safety. They were all afraid they would get dragged into this mess. The second prince was busy dealing with officials, waves of impeachment and questioning, and was completely swamped. Right when things were at their craziest, another little noticed piece of news was quietly spreading among the public. The woman that General Z brought back from the border disappeared without a trace. General Z searched the whole city like a madman, listening to constant updates from my subordinates. I just stayed relaxed in my manner, feeding fish and admiring flowers. I tossed fish bait into the lake. Countless fish splashed around fighting for food on the lake surface. It stayed restless for quite a while. Let it stir, the crazier things get, the more interesting the story becomes. Ever since the Emperor of Chu ordered a full reinvestigation into the fifth prince's case, over a month has passed. The atmosphere in the capital went from being extremely lively at first to more and more tense and silent. At first, only the maids serving the fifth prince's mother were investigated. But once the investigation started, it just spiraled out of control. It even came out that Chu Jing's long-term illness was also caused by someone's secret scheme. In the end, more than 50 people were thrown into prison one after another. These people ranged from the head of the Imperial Medical Academy to the lowest cleaning maids in the palace. A huge number of people were involved, to say the least. When the investigation finally wrapped up, all evidence pointed straight to the second prince. At first, the second prince still wanted to argue his case, but no one expected old Master Lin, the world's top divine physician, to suddenly come out of seclusion. He not only personally examined the fifth prince of Chu's remains, but also took Chu Jing's pulse. He confirmed that both princes had indeed been poisoned, and it was the exact same poison. It's just that the fifth prince of Chu was poisoned while still in his mother's womb, so he died only 3 days after birth. Chu Jing was already a young child when he was poisoned, so he wasn't as fragile as the fifth prince. That's how he managed to survive. This poison is colorless and odorless. It kills people slowly without them noticing. It's not an ordinary poison. It's an extremely rare substance in the world. The minister of the Court of Judicial Review's men dug deeper into the case and found out that years ago, the second prince had asked someone to buy this exact poison. It said that when the Emperor of Chu saw the evidence submitted by the Court of Judicial Review, he was so enraged that he coughed up blood and fainted on the spot. Luckily, old Master Lin was there and gave him emergency treatment right away. But during this treatment, they found out that the Emperor of Chu had also been poisoned with the same substance, and he was already at death's door. The second prince was immediately placed under house arrest in the palace. In just half a day, the whole situation in the capital was turned upside down. Lin Wanyu and I were drinking tea at Chu Jing's manor. She looked at the overcast sky and sighed softly. Looks like there's going to be a heavy rain. I didn't say yes or no. A heavy rain would be nice, actually. The capital is full of filth and hidden evil. It really needs a good wash. Since it's going to rain, you two young ladies should stay for dinner and leave after the rain stops. A warm, gentle voice like a warm spring came from behind us. Then came a man in a wheelchair with a gentle and handsome face. Even though he was in a wheelchair, he looked extremely well. There wasn't a single trace of sickness on his face. Then we'll trouble you, Chu Jing. Lin Wan Yu and I exchanged a look and nodded with a smile. It's no trouble at all. Chu Jing smiled slightly, his face full of gratitude. If you hadn't found old Master Lin for me, I'd probably be stuck with this weak, sick body for the rest of my life. Hearing this, Lin Wan Yu waved her hands quickly and said, all the credit goes to Zhao Jiao. Zhao Jiao is the one who told me where old Master Lin was, and she's the one who told me to go find him. Still, you're the only one who could pull this off. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to do it, I said slowly. Chu Jing shook his head with a smile, looking quite helpless. Please don't be so modest, you two. Anyway, both of you saved my life. If you need anything later on, just feel free to ask. You just focus on nursing your body back to health. Once this rain stops, there'll be plenty of things I need your help with. I raised an eyebrow, and Master Shen asked who I wanted to support as the ruler. Person I picked was Chu Jing. The original story didn't have many descriptions of Chu Jing. It only said he had a pure and kind heart, and was extremely gifted and smart. He cared for the whole world even at a young age. He used to be Emperor Chu's most beloved prince, and also the most promising candidate for the throne. Sadly, he had been weak and sickly since childhood, short-lived with little good fortune. Barely 7 days after Emperor Chu passed away, he had already died too, with just a few brief lines. His entire life was summed up, but as the woman who holds the full script of this story, I know clearly he wasn't actually sick. He was poisoned. He and the 5th Prince of Chu were both stepping stones for the 2nd Prince to take the throne. So from the day I decided to change the fate of Duke Shen's mansion, I sent people to secretly watch Chu Jing. He also didn't let me down. Even though he was plagued by illness, he still kept studying and practicing diligently. He didn't blame heaven or earth, nor did he resent his fate. He just kept doing his best to support and stabilize the country. He kept submitting proposals and advice to Emperor Chu. If it weren't for his health issues, he would definitely be more fit for the throne than the 2nd Prince. That's why I chose to help him out. The original story mentioned his poison could actually be cured, but only one person in the whole world could cure it. That was Elder Ling. Unfortunately, Elder Ling's whereabouts were always uncertain, and he had a really weird personality. He wouldn't treat people who weren't fated to meet him. He wouldn't treat people who couldn't cater to his preferences either. But I knew where he was, and I also knew how to cater to his likes. I even knew the so-called fated person was Lin Wan Yu. Lin Wan Yu's mother was Elder Ling's first love when he was young. In the novel, the moment he saw Lin Wan Yu, who looked 70% like her mother, he immediately granted her 3 wishes. This was the deal I made with Lin Wan Yu. She would find Elder Ling for me to save Chu Jing. I would help her finish the things she hadn't completed, so she could leave Ziwei cleanly with no loose ends. Even though this wasn't my original plan, her joining would make everything go much smoother, so I decided to give her a great opportunity ahead of time, and a promise from Chu Jing. Take it as repayment for her saving my life. The heavy rain fell for 3 straight days. The capital also stayed quiet for 3 days, until dawn on the 4th day. The funeral bell in the palace rang for a long time. The emperor had passed away. Emperor Chu had left an edict before he died, naming the sickly Chu Jing as the new emperor. The 2nd Prince was demoted to a commoner, placed under house arrest in his mansion for life, never allowed to go out for his whole life. The capital fell silent. Everything went back to how it was before, as if nothing had happened during this period at all. Only the constant news of the 2nd Prince's supporters having their homes raided, showed there had been a battle for the throne. As the second prince's biggest backer, Grand General's mansion couldn't escape being raided either. But I heard the night before the raid, Old Master Z took the whole Z family and fled overnight. Even ZY disappeared too. When I heard this news, I was trimming flower branches in the yard. Chu Jing was sitting calmly in the pavilion behind me. After watching me for a long time, he spoke in a teasing tone. General Z is now missing with no trace, and Miss Shen can still trim flowers so calmly. You really don't hold any old feelings for him at all, huh? Snip. I neatly cut off a section of flower branch. Along with the branch that fell to the ground was a gorgeously blooming flower. The lush flower hit the ground, scattering petals all over the floor. The delicate flower turned into mud, all in just a split second. Your Majesty, look at this flower. Can it ever grow back on the branch? Chu Jing opened his mouth to speak, but his words were directly cut off by a cheerful voice. Dao Jiao, this is the medicinal soup I just made for you. For you, it's the most nourishing. Drink it while it's still hot, quick. Lin Wanyu walked towards me holding the bowl of soup, smiling brightly with her eyes crinkled. I took the bowl, tested its temperature, then drank it all in one go. During this period of time, Lin Wanyu has been dedicated to nursing me back to health every day. My body is really getting stronger and healthier. As a thank you, I picked the most fully bloomed flower and pinned it in her hair. Pretty flower for a pretty lady, perfect. Chu Jing suddenly spoke up. The General Z saw this scene. What he would think about it, that depends on whether he's lucky enough to live to see it. I smiled faintly. Of course the story didn't end that easily. Sometime later, rebel forces suddenly attacked the city. The leader was the second prince, who was supposed to be under house arrest. His deputy was ZY, who had disappeared not long ago. ZY was unwilling to accept his fate, so he decided to risk it all, while the whole city was panicking, and everyone was scared for their lives. Chu Jing acted like he had been prepared for this all along. He suppressed the rebellion with lightning speed, and killed the second prince on his horse with a single sword strike. With their leader dead, all his accomplices were arrested and scheduled to be beheaded on a later date. Went to the prison to visit ZY once. The once high-spirited young general had lost all his former arrogance. He stared at me with dark eyes. Dao Jiao, you planned all of this, didn't you? He asked me, but I didn't answer. He asked again, when did you start planning all this? I still didn't reply. His eyes gradually turned red. Zhao Jiao, do you really not care about me at all? At this point, isn't it a little too late for you to ask that, General Z? Ziwei wanted to say something more, but he couldn't get the words out in the end, because he saw Lin Wanyu, the same Lin Wanyu who used to have eyes only for him. Didn't even spare him a glance now. She just quietly walked behind me, put a cloak over my shoulders and said, Dao Jiao, the prison is damp and cold. Don't catch a cold. Seeing this scene, what else was there for him to not understand? Now I hated him, and Lin Wanyu had abandoned him too. On the day of the execution, Lin Wanyu and I went to watch it together. When he saw us, ZY smiled, but a tear rolled down his cheek. When the executioner's axe fell, I heard him say, Zhao Jiao, wish I hadn't been so greedy back then. I sighed helplessly, not because of him, but because Lin Wanyu was scared by the bloody scene and turned around to throw herself into my arms. Don't get why you'd come watch, if you're scared of it. In the second year of Chu Jing's reign, he took harsh measures to deal with many corrupt officials. First one to be taken down was Wang Kaiyan, the former Right Prime Minister. He was also Lin Wanyu's biological father. As a proper story female lead, Lin Wanyu's life story was naturally not a happy one. Her mother was deceived and abandoned, gave birth to her alone, and raised her all by herself, only to die in the war later. She followed ZY all the way to the capital to look for her heartless father. It turned out he was a powerful prime minister, who not only refused to acknowledge her, but also wanted to get rid of her. had no choice but to swallow her pride, and saw Ziwei as her only lifeline, hoping to use his power to take down her own father and avenge her mother. On the day Wang Kaiyan died, Lin Wanyu did something totally out of character. She dragged me to drink with her for half the night. She cried and laughed on and off, and finally had a good, nightmare-free sleep. When spring came the next year, with Elder Lin's treatment, Chu Jing no longer needed to use a wheelchair. His health gradually improved and was almost as good as a normal person's. He worked hard to govern the country, had great ambitions, was determined to build a peaceful and prosperous era. For my contribution in helping him take the throne, I was appointed as the right prime minister, becoming the first female official since the founding of the dynasty. I worked with him to govern the country. Lin Wanyu was granted the title of county princess and became Elder Lin's apprentice. She wanted to travel all over the world with Elder Lin and provide medical care to people in need. On the day she left the capital, I woke up very early and saw her off at the city gate. The young girl sat on her horse, dressed in a white dress, her jet black hair tied up loosely, a wild smile blooming brightly on her stunning face. Before I knew it, the delicate little white flower from before had long turned into the bright and clear moon in the sky. Take care, Zhao Jiao. As the sound of horse hoofs faded away, that wish for my well-being also dissipated in the wind. I tightened my clothes a little. Now the whole country is peaceful and prosperous, and you have no more worries or resentments. We'll definitely meet again.